Breaking tonight, Canada's industrial strategy just entered a completely new dimension. Germany didn't just express interest, they signaled commitment. Tensions are escalating across the global auto sector tonight. Mark Carney introduced a new automotive strategy designed to attract foreign manufacturing, but instead of polite diplomatic interest, Berlin accelerated its timeline and sent its economic affairs minister directly to Ottawa. Everyone believed Canada's auto strategy was a defensive play, a desperate attempt to protect existing jobs amid tariff chaos. Wall Street assumed no major European manufacturer would seriously consider Canadian production. Analysts predicted that Germany's automakers, already struggling with their own EV transition, would stay focused on domestic restructuring. They were all utterly incorrect. Ottawa, February 9, 2026. After a day of high-level meetings with three of Canada's most powerful cabinet ministers, Germany's Minister of Economic Affairs and Energy, Katharina Reiche, told the Globe and Mail something that should have been front-page news around the world. Germany's car industry is willing to invest here. They are in talks to extend their footprint into Canada. Translation: Berlin just told Washington that European supply chains are about to be rerouted, and Canada is the destination. And what happened next reveals exactly why Mark Carney's auto strategy was never really about cars at all. It was about building something far more consequential, a transatlantic industrial alliance that operates completely outside American control. Dear viewers, let me walk you through what actually happened in Ottawa on February 9th, because the mainstream coverage missed the real story entirely. Minister Reiche didn't fly across the Atlantic to talk about sedans. She met with Industry Minister Melanie Joly, Energy and Natural Resources Minister Kim Hodgson, and Dominic LeBlanc, the minister overseeing multiple facets of Canada's entire trade strategy. Three cabinet heavyweights, three separate portfolios, one coordinated conversation. And here is the detail that changes everything. Reiche told the Globe and Mail that their discussions didn't even focus primarily on the auto sector. They discussed a separate submarine deal. They discussed major Canadian infrastructure projects. They discussed energy partnerships. Now pause and think about that for a moment. Germany's economic affairs minister travels to Ottawa, meets with the ministers responsible for industry, energy, natural resources, and trade strategy, and automobiles are almost a side conversation. What does that tell you about the actual scope of what is being negotiated? It tells you that Mark Carney is not running an auto recruitment campaign. He is architecting a multi-layered strategic partnership with Europe's largest economy. And automobiles are simply the most visible thread in a much larger fabric. Let me show you the pattern, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. First layer, submarines. Germany and Norway have submitted a joint bid to supply Canada with up to 12 submarines. 12. This is not a minor procurement. This is one of the largest defense acquisitions in Canadian history. And the Globe and Mail reports that Canada specifically asked both South Korea and Germany to include auto industry production pledges alongside their submarine bids. Read that again. Canada told two of the world's most advanced manufacturing nations, if you want our defense contracts, bring your auto industry with you. Second layer, energy and natural resources. Minister Hodgson was in that room for a reason. Germany is the world's third largest economy, and it is in the middle of the most aggressive energy transition in European history. Canada has lithium. Canada has cobalt. Canada has nickel. Canada has uranium. Canada has hydroelectric capacity that Germany can only dream about. And here is a detail the mainstream press buried. Germany is actively looking to purchase Canadian liquefied natural gas to power its industries and heat German homes. Berlin is already buying LNG produced by Canadian companies through terminals in Louisiana, but now they want to cut out the middleman and buy directly from Canada. Every single critical mineral and energy source that Germany needs for its industrial future, Canada has in abundance. Third layer, Infrastructure. Major Canadian infrastructure projects were discussed, not as background conversation, as agenda items alongside submarines and automotive investment. This means Germany sees Canada not just as a supplier, but as a construction and development partner. Fourth layer, automotive manufacturing. Volkswagen subsidiary PowerCo is already building an EV battery factory in St. Thomas, Ontario. Construction started last year. This is not theoretical. German manufacturing is already physically arriving on Canadian soil, and Minister Reiche pointed to this directly as proof that Canada is, in her words, a reliable partner. Four layers: defense, energy, infrastructure, automotive, all discussed in a single day of meetings, all connected, all pointing in one direction, away from Washington. Dear viewers, now let me explain why this timing is not coincidental, because this is where the story becomes genuinely historic. Right now, the United States under Donald Trump is waging economic war against its own allies. Tariffs on Canadian goods, threats against European automakers, unpredictable trade policy that changes with a single social media post. Every major manufacturer on Earth is asking the same question tonight. Where can we build that is stable, predictable, and connected to global markets without being held hostage by Washington's chaos? Mark Carney understood this question before anyone else asked it, and his answer was elegant in its simplicity: make Canada the answer. Think about what Germany's automakers see when they look at Canada right now. They see a country with a brand new auto sector strategy specifically designed to attract exactly their kind of investment. They see a government that links defense procurement to industrial commitments, meaning the relationship has depth, not just one transaction. They see critical mineral reserves that eliminate dependence on Chinese supply chains. They see an existing Volkswagen battery plant already under construction, proving the concept works. And they see a prime minister who operates with strategic patience rather than impulsive threats. Now think about what those same automakers see when they look south: tariff uncertainty, political instability, a president who publicly threatens to annex their trading partner, supply chains that could be disrupted by a single executive order. The choice is not difficult, and Berlin knows it. But here is the dimension that almost nobody is discussing tonight, and this is critical. South Korea is already in this game. Seoul has signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding to bring auto manufacturing and investment to Canada. South Korea is also bidding on the submarine contract, which means Canada now has two of the world's most advanced manufacturing economies competing with each other to build industrial capacity on Canadian soil. Competition, not charity, not foreign aid. Strategic competition between global manufacturing powers for the privilege of partnering with Canada. When was the last time that happened? When has Canada ever been in a position where Germany and South Korea are racing to establish automotive production on Canadian territory while simultaneously bidding on submarine contracts worth billions? This is the Carney effect, and it is just getting started. Now, Minister Reiche was careful to add that the final decision rests with the automotive companies themselves. That is true. Governments open doors, companies walk through them. But consider the signals. Germany's economic affairs minister personally traveled to Ottawa. She used the phrase, willing to invest. She referenced existing German manufacturing commitments as evidence of reliability. She discussed the auto sector alongside submarines, energy, and infrastructure, framing it as part of a comprehensive bilateral relationship, not an isolated business decision. In diplomatic language, this is about as close to a commitment as you get before the contracts are signed. And when pressed for details, Reiche did not retreat into vague pleasantries. She said directly, "It's more than just talking." 5 words. But in the careful, measured world of German diplomacy, those 5 words are a flashing green light. And there is one more element that makes this particularly powerful. Reiche explicitly told the Globe and Mail that the auto industry's interest is independent of the submarine deal. Why does that matter? Because it means German automakers are not coming to Canada as a political favor tied to defense procurement. They are coming because the business case stands on its own merit. The submarine deal may have opened the conversation, but the auto strategy is what is keeping them at the table. That distinction is enormous. It means even if the submarine contract goes to a different bidder, German automotive interest in Canada survives. Carney built a strategy with multiple anchors, not a single point of failure. Dear viewers, step back and look at the full picture of what is happening right now. Canada is simultaneously negotiating submarine procurement with Germany and South Korea, while using those negotiations to attract automotive manufacturing. Canada is discussing energy partnerships with Europe's largest economy while holding the critical minerals that economy desperately needs. Canada is positioning itself as the stable, predictable alternative to American chaos, and the world's most sophisticated manufacturers are responding. This is not an auto strategy. This is a sovereignty strategy. Mark Carney is building a multi-layered economic architecture with European and Asian partners that fundamentally reduces Canada's dependence on the United States. Every German car plant built in Ontario is a supply chain that does not run through Detroit. Every submarine contract signed with Berlin is a defense relationship that does not require Pentagon approval. Every energy partnership with Europe is a market that Washington cannot threaten with tariffs. And here is the part that should keep American strategists awake tonight. This is happening in plain sight. Germany's economic affairs minister flew to Ottawa, met with 3 cabinet ministers, told the media that German automakers want to invest in Canada, and connected it to submarines, energy, and infrastructure. None of this is secret. None of this is speculation. This is on the record. The world is watching Canada build an alternative, and instead of trying to compete, Washington is still tweeting about annexation. If you are following the transformation of Canada's global position, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We have been tracking this shift since day one. The submarine bids, the trade pivots, the resource diplomacy. Every piece connects. And the picture that is emerging is one that mainstream media is only beginning to understand. Canada is not just surviving Trump's economic war. Canada is using it as the catalyst to become something it has never been before. The strategic manufacturing partner that every advanced economy wants, and that no single country can threaten. The auto strategy was never about cars, it was about freedom. And tonight, Berlin just confirmed that the world agrees.